Okay, so we're back in there now. Obviously you have to be careful because it's quite wet. So we just check here. And we've got a thicker dark paint, as you can see there on the difference. So what we're going to do now, we'll just put that in a holder for a second. Obviously you could just sort of blast around as you wanted to. If we just put this on the edge, and if I just angle the camera up a little bit so we can bring you in. There we go. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to take some 40mm Tamiya tape. Nothing exciting, we're just going to put it on my jeans, pick up some fibres, just like that. Then all we're going to do, we're basically just going to give this a little bit of shadowing. So obviously we don't want it on the actual areas themselves. So you may have seen me do this before. So all we do, put a little bit of tape on just like that. Alright, and then all we're going to do is literally brush over the top quite randomly, just like that. Now if we remove it, as you'll see, we get a nice dirt line appearing down there. Then obviously you can pick out individuals. If you're feeling a little bit more brave, you can do it freehand, just sort of like this. Alright, now we've got these little vents going on back here and bits and pieces. So what we'll do now, I'm just going to pop in some little dark streaks. Just trying to dirty that entire area up just like that. There we go, so we'll just put some in the back here. Okay, some little ones coming off of where the activators are. Just like that. Remember to clean your needle off, so we want a nice tight sort of pattern, and then any little events, have some little dirtiness appearing. Just like that. So there we go, we've got those marks now all over it, just trying to dirty it up. Obviously the underside is going to be the dirty side down here, and the top side is going to be a little bit cleaner. So all we're going to do, we're just going to put a very small amount coming off of the APU bit here, which is that sort of effect. Okay, it always sort of curls back on itself. I'll show you how I've done it just there. Okay, so that's all we want to do for that. And then the same thing, just going to give it a tiny little bit of weathering just around on these hot areas just down the back. Here we go. Put some very light dustings. You know, obviously I know you have to be know your airbrush well to do this freehand, but you could always mask up, just put a little bit in front before you go. Front vents, things like that, they're always pretty clean on Typhoons. Tails as well, they seem to be quite clean. So there we go, I'm quite happy to leave that exactly how it is, just like that. So it's got enough dirt on there to look like it's used without going totally over the top elsewhere. By the time it's got a flat coat on, it'll dull the entire thing down quite nicely as well. So we just tip that back in there. Obviously front bits and pieces, fuel tanks, they get changed over. This is all personal preference how you do those things, but from my point of view I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to stop right there with the weathering and not do any more on that. So what we're going to do next is put a flat coat right the way over that, just one for the moment, just to seal in that little bit of weathering and see what it looks like. If it's a little bit strong, we can actually tone those weatherings down by just giving it a bit of a dull coat right over. Okay, so as you can see, we're getting the gear on here, straightforward with the nose, one goes straight in. It's a little bit fiddly getting these in, but obviously if you lean them back slightly, they fit in there quite easily. You just have to watch the wheels. I might just poke that off for a moment, and you can make sure it's pushed in nice and firm. Now the thing is, they do actually bend slightly in, so when you're looking at it like that, they actually pinch together, which is what they're supposed to do. So we're going to get that one in there like that. Now as you may have noticed, I haven't put on the little outrigger parts which hold in, because it's actually easier to put these parts on here on afterwards. So all we do, we're just going to put a little on the back here, on that top area. There's a little mark just down in here. That goes, and then we can line all this up. Now unfortunately I have bent slightly the little shock absorber area there. So what we'll do, we're going to get this placed in, and then we can affix it properly once we're in and we're happy with it. Okay, so what we're going to do, if we line up the bottom one first, if we use some tweezers, we can get that one in set. Then we can line up these two back ones, the one here and the one above there. So what we'll do, we'll just lightly nudge it for the moment, just into position. That's in. It might be worth leaving that just a sec, just to harden off on its own. Just like that. Then what we can do is we'll pop the wheel in afterwards. Now the thing is, the reason why the wheels, I didn't stick that one on there properly, it was just leaning on there, is obviously because they pinch in, the wheel has to be vertical, it has to be 90 degrees straight up, so they do tend to toe a little bit in. But if you see how that is at the moment, as you see there, they're actually pinched together, whereas they're not vertically straight down 90 degrees, which is quite a funny angle, but that's the way they go. Right, just putting the pylons on the outside. Nice little tip for these, get an oversized drill bit, and then literally you just go in and round them off. Now you remember, if you get like you're doing woodwork and you've got a screw on the go, and to make it go flush all in, it's the best way, because sometimes what it is, you get a little bit just sticking out a bit. So we're just going to go in there like that, both sides. And that way you get a perfectly smooth top, whereas if you'd actually just drilled it normally, it might be a little bit rough, which will make for not a nice joint. And the thing is, when you come along, the actual pegs, they're a little bit long, so what we need to do is just take the height of them down a little bit. So we're just going to give them a sand. Let's do the rest of it, and the front one. Just like that. Then what we're going to do, we're going to put liquid thin all on the pylon, just like that. Okay, then we're just going to set it on, and it fits like a glove. Simple, straight on there, just like that. There again, when you're doing all pylons, have a look down and make sure it's 90 degrees down and not pigeoned out or something like that. So check your things. So there we go. Obviously the undercarriage is all wet, so I'm not going to put it down. The same thing goes for these fuel tanks. If you're going to fit them on now, which I'm not going to do just for the moment because we've got little things to go on yet, but we just go in there. And obviously we can then, the fuel tanks will hopefully fit in there. Now the hole needs to be a little bit bigger for these, so it might be worth here. I'm not quite sure how big a drill bit I've got on the go. Let me just sink these in nicely. Just like so, and then I'm hoping this is going to sit, which it does very nicely. It's going to sit right on the top there. But as I say, we won't put those on yet, so we'll open up all these other holes as well. Right, so as you can see, we've got a few things on here. I've put on the front planes here, they're on, and actually a little bit of super glue just to hold them in place. The reason I've used super glue on that is that in case of emergency, they'll ping off and should come out without actually knocking the stub off, the little peg that goes in to hold them in. So they're in. Gear doors are on. Obviously I've got to put the actual hydraulics, the arms and things on there yet, but I'll do those once they're set and in place. Same with the undercarriage, I want that all to set as well. Haven't put the lights on for the undercarriage, but I will do shortly. And now these doors are on, we can actually get the wing tanks on and in position, and they're quite a tight fit, so they actually do push fit on there. Oh, that one doesn't, but the other one does, to give you a rough idea, and we're sort of taken to the Typhoon shape. Also, what I did, literally, I just got some thinned, very, very thinned barley grey in the airbrush and literally just giving it a bit of a blow right the way over. Now the reason I did that is that I wasn't totally happy with the way the weathering was. Checking more reference photos and things like that, they tend to have this sort of very pale look to them, and yet when I did it myself and I went around, did a bit of weathering, I just sort of overcooked it a bit. So literally just by a very, very weak solution of the actual barley grey, just blown it in everywhere, and it didn't matter if you went over the decals too much and things like that because it's such a thin coat, but what it will do is knock down all the weathering and has given it this very nice flat coat to it. which hopefully you'll pick up in the end photos a lot better than you will here. Okay, so now we're going to do the sign lines, or the night navigation lights, which obviously, if we just bring this one around here, you can see it's this one on the tail. Now the thing is, because we've got the photo etch sets in there, trying to get the photo etch ones on there are a complete and utter nightmare. So what I actually have done, I've got a little bit of XF4 yellow, mixed a little bit of white in it, just in here, to make this pale colour. Then all we're going to do is pick up, okay, and we're going to just put a drop, because it's thinned, into the actual little area in between the photo etch. And hopefully it will run around in there and do its bit. Well, you can see that if we just bring you in. As you can see, this one on the top there. Now if I can hold it still and do this at the same time, I'll do the bottom one. It's the same thing. Literally we're just touching and let it flow to the edges. Okay, just like that. I'll just do the next one. This one's a little bit more tricky. Probably a little bit too much paint in there. Transfer some over to that one. But there we go, that's those in there, and it brings a nice way of doing it. So we're just going to do that to all the other photo etched areas. But obviously if you were trying to get a little piece of photo etch in there, you know, it's great, but how do you actually get the actual decal to sit in there and look flush? Well, this is the way around it. So obviously you just let it touch and flow. Now if it does leak underneath and goes around the outsides, like it's done over here, if I just show you on this one, obviously I've done this one at the front here, and I don't know how well you can pick that on camera, but it's got a little bit just at the top here, as you can see there, it's just bled through. So what we're going to do, we're going to let that dry a little bit, then we're just going to come back with a little bit of barley and run it around the outside, and that will take care of that. But as you can see, I've done it on this one as well, and it's dried in now. I know it's a bit hard to see, but it's given that nice dull look, whereas if you put it with the one on the tail, obviously the one on the tail we don't have a lot of choice how we do it. You see it's quite bright versus the one there. I can get both in the same shot. There we go, see the one at the top of the screen there versus the one at the bottom. And I think I prefer the one at the bottom, but obviously trying to make this one at the top do it the same way is somewhat of a bit of a nightmare to do it. So there we go, I'm just going to carry on and do the other one. Okay, so the next thing we've got up with this one is the weapons fit. Now obviously, you know, we could go through loads and loads of all the different weapons it carries. The box itself carries literally lots and lots and lots. For this particular fit, I'm going to fit on here AMRAAM, which is the AIM-120, and ASRAAM, which is the short range version of it, which is the standard sort of RAF fit. If you are going to be doing sort of other countries that are Germans, perhaps they use the sidewinders, or they're going to be using the RST and things like that. So you have to, obviously depending on which nation you're going to do, is obviously what type of weapon fit. So we're going to do light gold grey, which is the standard colour for US missiles and UK type of things. So we just all over, just grey, just like that. So we're just going to spray all of these, and then what we can do is, obviously the noses are slightly different colour, but you can either mask or you can dip it, whichever way is personally easier for you. What I've done with these, you might notice, if I just show you here, on the back of these AIM-120s, normally they are very straightforward, just flat. So actually what I do, I use a small little 1mm drill bit, and then like we've got here, showing here, as you can see, like that, and then we drill a hole in the back just like that, and then I come along and literally with a, this is a 2.5mm drill bit, literally put it in the back here and give it a couple of twists just to give it that sort of exhaust nozzle at the back for the rocket motor, and that way they're not just flat, and then you can just put a little bit of silver down there if it's live, or a little bit of red for the caps that they have for, you know, obviously getting fog marks and things like that, and then that way it doubles up because it gives you something to stick up there, so you can spray them just like that without having to hold the nose in bits and pieces. So I'll just get all of these sprayed. Okay, so as you can see, aircraft's really coming together now. We've just decaled all the weapons, and obviously a common thing is obviously doing the tips of the missiles usually a different colour. In this case here we've got the AMRAAMs, the AIM-120Bs, and they have a white tip. You could mask up and spray them. Quick little technique, I've got some paint here. Obviously if you poke it straight in like that, it doesn't go far enough up the thing. So if you lean it slightly to the side, put it in, rotate it 180 degrees, take it off, touch it into the cap, to get the excess to pour down. There we go, missile tip all done. nicely ready to go. And if you got it right and you've held it at the right angle, all of them will be the same distance. And then what you want to do is obviously lay it on its side somewhere, just that way like that. So here's one we did a few moments ago. It's a little bit drier, but as you can see, the actual tip itself is nice and white there all the way around. So that's that. So what we're going to do now is let that dry, the entire model, for a few minutes, just to dry off totally. The other thing I've done is I've installed the black part on the actual clear canopy here, and I've super glued already in place and glued the actual holder in there. So then obviously this is going to go on and will fit just like that. I've also put the photo etch mirrors in. That's on a bit of clear, so I'm going to let that dry off totally, and then I'm going to do the back of the mirrors. Obviously I'll do black and then obviously silver on the inside so it shows through. So what I'm going to do now is literally leave this to stand for a couple of hours to let it all go off, because we've done a lot of work to it and obviously everything's still a little bit soft, like the undercarriage, and obviously with the pylons are all attached, so I want everything to go off and go totally hard. And then what we're going to do, we're going to come back then with the missiles as we've done them here and give them a quick flat coat off separately, and then they can be actually fixed to the model itself. So really we're into the final stages, if you like, and then we can get the lights on, things like that, and we're basically done. Right, so we're almost getting ready for the finishing touches. As you see, we've moved on a little bit. They're all basic steps that really didn't have to go through with you. Clear lights are all on, usual thing. A little bit of gator glue, just gone in there first and done it like that. Obviously there's some photo etch parts which you'll see in detail later. There's a little vein on the top here, some other bits and pieces all around it, the little veins. I haven't put on the veins under the chin yet. They're going to be absolutely a nightmare to get through the post system. So I might leave those off or try and protect them somehow, and then be put on at a later date, because it'd be quite easy to drop a gator glue just to attach those. Weapons fit is on. I've used gator glue to put on the weapons fit purely because I was experimenting the other day with doing it with gator glue. It dries totally clear and it's nice and grippy. The other great thing with using the gator glue, if you ever wanted to rearm it, it's quite easy to take it off. You can cut it off because it's a PVA, and it will cut quite easily, and you can replace it and fit them with any sort of thing you like. Last thing to go on is just the lights. Got to go on the undercarriage here, or on the inner doors, and we're going to fit those on and get them done, and then we're going to get some remove before flight tags on. Okay, so that's the Typhoon almost done. Everything's on there now, all the little bits, little veins, still to say a few little veins just to take care of, but basically the model's all done. What I'm going to do now, which is a little bit different, is I'm going to put remove before flight tags on it. Now I know there's lots on the net where you can download little pictures and do paper ones, give them a dunk in a little bit of future, and away you go. Well, you can do what I've got here is an Edard set of remove before flight tags, which are quite nice. 49009 is the number for them. They come in little different types you get with the black writing, with the white writing, and obviously if you look around, check your references. I know the RAF ones tend to be red and that silvery colour, or red and black, but I've noticed on a few of them they're actually got remove before flight in black writing as well. So that's what we're going to do here. Now the thing is, the holes on them, it's got one here, very, very small. If I bring you in a bit. Right, here we are. The holes for them is very, very small. So if you take a pin vise or whatever you're going to do, I'll just use some scissors here for the moment. What I actually do is poke a little hole in and push down, and a little bit of a twist, just to make that hole a little bit bigger, because when you try and get anything through there, they're that small. That they can be a bit of a problem to do. So we do it like that. Then I'm going to take some black cotton. I'll just bring you out a bit. There we go, some standard black cotton here. And some scissors, sharp scissors, I think would be better. I've got it just like that. Then all you do, you come along, grab your photo etch part, which is always trouble getting them off the desk. Okay, and then moisten up an end to make it a little bit wet, and hopefully it should, if your hole's big enough and you've got a steady eye, a bit like threading a needle, actually get it through and in, as he says, as he's trying to do it himself, which is a bit tricky. There we go, we're in. Okay, then you could basically tie that exactly how you want it to. One little tip I do, if you get your 2 bits of cotton, okay, and then you hang them basically like this, so you've got it, you know, the tag and the cotton. Then if you take a cocktail stick, a little bit of CA glue on it, okay, and just run it around the 2 halves as they go through like that. Then if you take if you've got some CA kicker, we'll just speed this thing up. Well, if I just dunk it on the end, like here, all right, you put it in, twist it in your fingers so it all wraps up on itself, okay? Then just give it a little rub down there over the CA kicker, and that will help dry it up and speed it up, and hopefully it'll go white in a second. Here we go, it's starting to go white, which means we're all drying. Otherwise, you just have to hold it for a few more moments. And then as this dries off, let's give it another few seconds, it will hold itself just like that. Okay, and as it sets and gets even harder, just pop that down a second, move those out of the way, pop the lid on there. Okay, what will happen is it goes this sort of white colour you see on the end, and then we can just snip off the end bit there, and that gives us our tag. And then obviously we want to make it look like it's moving in the wind, so all we do, I just pinch the top and the bottom and twist, and you can bend and fold whichever you wanted to do, and then that gives you your nice flowing remove before flight tag, just like that. So there we go, there it is. Just like that. Okay, then obviously checking your references all over to see where they actually go, i.e. there's usually pins for undercarriage, certainly for weapons, weapon covers. I'm going to do this as if it's in final stage, i.e. there's just a few left on there. I'm not going to cover it with them hanging off of absolutely everything. I'm just going to put it in the gear, the tail hook things and bits and pieces like that. So then all you do is, you could use a little bit of gator glue, is a nice little way of doing this. But obviously there's one in the back, when you see the Typhoon it shows, there's one at the back here. So also the other way you could do it to attach them, if you've got a tiny little 0.5mm drill bit, put a little hole, a little bit of super glue, and then you can poke these in the end just like that. So we just have a quick look at our reference photos we've got. We can see that it actually comes out from the bottom here. So all we'll do, we're just going to pop that underneath. Just to speed things up a bit, it does help if we just put a drop of CA kicker down. What you do, if you run your part you're going to use in some super glue, okay, pop it in some CA kicker, it will start to go off almost immediately as it's touched the area, and then all we're doing is holding it in position just to give that CA kicker a bite. And then I'm hoping, there we go, you can see that if I bring it in, there we go, we have the remove before flight tag in there, hanging in there, which will move around a bit in the wind as well. So what we're going to do is go around the entire of the model now and attach them in all the key locations that we can see, i.e. check your references. I won't show you exactly where I'm putting them all, but basically they're just going to be in all those little locations. And there we go, we're all finished off. Nice kit to work with. A little bit of trouble with this seam line, as you can see, running up and down the actual main fuselage there. I'll get some nice tight shots of it to show you in a moment that you'll see. But if you take your time with it and fill, and then perhaps using more of a needle type of situation, something like this, rather than a scriber to re-put in the lines, you should be all okay with it. It's just that thing of taking your time, and if you do it the way I sort of showed you, and just take your time and work your way along it, it's not too much problem. The photo etch set, very nicely done. It goes in very, very well. Not a biggest fan of coloured photo etch parts. I prefer to use a resin replacement one because obviously it's a bit more three-dimensional, but having it, saying that, it does work quite well and goes in there. As you can see, we've got the photo etch mirrors on this one now and working its way through, and the photo etch areas certainly for the slime lines or the night navigation system. These ones are on here. Obviously you look at the photos of the real aircraft, they're quite three-dimensional, they do stick out quite a bit, and the photo etch does do that bit quite nicely. It'd be nice if they were moulded in the plastic, perhaps something like the Hasegawa kits do. Outclads for the rear end on the exhaust using the black wash went together very nicely in the back there. It's quite nicely detailed because obviously inside you've got the photo etch part for actually showing the actual tube as it runs down there and all things like that, so it goes together well. Valero paints, as we said, for the barley grey going all over. Went on very, very well. My only thing, if you like, if there is a comment to make about the kit, is the actual decals. The kit decals, certainly for the tail markings, this is for 17 Squadron, it's very gritty printing. It may be just I've got an odd one, but I've done 2 or 3 now and they've all been a bit like it, so that's a replacement one at the back. Replacement decals right the way through anyway. Goes together very nicely as a kit. It's one of the new breed of the kits coming out from sort of Revell of Germany at the moment, where they're very nice panel lining, very fine. It's not overly trenched perhaps like some of the stuff coming out of the Far East at the moment. Use the photo etch parts for the remove before flight tags, works very well. Photo etch parts obviously for the hoses on the undercarriage and bits and pieces like that. All in all, quite a complex aircraft to go together, where for the seam at the front, getting it all to go in, down in there, but you say there again, take your time. Thing is, when you're using filler on a complicated shape like this, just run with it, and you can always rescribe again. Sometimes you might think, oh, I don't want to use filler because obviously if, you know, I'm going to have to rescribe it. Just take your time with the rescribing. If it goes wrong, fill it, have another go at it. If you do it in little areas, you'll find it's a lot better than having to think of a mass panic, oh, I've got to rescribe the entire thing. Apart from that, nice kit, nice subject. Obviously this is the FGR4 version of the actual aircraft. Basically, that means you get the pirate sight, this black thing at the front, which is like a TV camera, if you like, which looks forward and uses it instead of using the radar. So obviously is what makes it slightly different from the F2 version, where you don't actually have that. The pylon set, I haven't got the inner pylon going on there at all, because looking at the photos, you know, some have, some haven't. This particular one from my reference photos didn't have it, so that's why I haven't done it. We did the actual intake thing as well, you know, by actually getting the filler in there and painting it round. Usual things with that. Take your time with it, you'll be absolutely fine. I hope you enjoyed the build, and join me again next time.